Good day, gentlemen. I've been with my girlfriend for almost 8 years, and we've built an extremely peaceful, connected, supportive, passionate, fulfilling relationship. And we honestly have no doubt that we're going to spend the rest of our lives together. But it wasn't always like this. It took a lot to get here. And the moment you understand where I came from, you will either click off this video because you're scared of the truth, or your entire future will be changed. So, let me tell you how I actually built a great relationship while flies fly into my face here. What the fuck? Because when we first became a couple, I knew she was a great woman. She was loving, she supported my goals, she gave me peace. But around 2 years into the relationship, I became terrified that it would end soon. I was really afraid that she would break up with me or even cheat on me, which I later found out is what people call an anxious attachment style, because there were no red flags. But even beyond that, no one had ever taught me anything about how to love a woman, and our relationship and our sex life was becoming more and more boring, just dull. It felt like we were just roommates, and this loving, bubbly, fun woman I knew was more and more turning into this cold and distant woman. I knew she didn't want to be cold, because no one wants to be cold, and I knew we both want this deep, passionate love that would allow us to build a life together, build a family together. But to be honest, what I wanted even more was to get rid of this constant fear of losing her. I wanted to finally feel relaxed in this relationship and feel confident in myself instead of always having this war go on in my head. So I started looking for advice on the internet, in books, and honestly, the advice that I got really confused me just more, because either it was, hey, just communicate better and get couples therapy, or it was, get her to find you more attractive again with certain red pill tactics. And I'm ashamed to admit this, but I was really at a dark place at that time, so I tried everything. And with the red pill stuff, it just seemed to push her further away. It just seemed to make her close herself off even more. And with communicating better, well, even though I learned all these frameworks and all these principles for healthy communication, there was still this valley between us that made it very difficult for us to actually communicate well with each other. It seemed like we were still like defending ourselves against each other. And so, honestly, nothing worked. And my confidence got so low that I genuinely even considered breaking up with her, because I thought, well, maybe another woman could give me what I want. But then I realized something powerful. I heard this quote one day from Jim Rohn where he said, "You can have more than you've got because you can become more than you are." And I realized in that moment that the opposite of this is also true. If you stay the same person, you will have the same things. And so I realized in that moment that I am simply not yet the kind of man who can build a great relationship. And even though admitting this to myself hurt like a... I just thought of this meme. Hurt like what is it? Fuck. Is it a butt cheek on a stick, or the other way around? Fucking hell, I don't know. If you've seen Vines when you were younger, you know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, just don't even listen to me. Anyway, even though this hurt, even though admitting this to myself hurt, it also helped me realize one crucial lesson. Of course, she has to do her part for a great relationship, but I knew that I had already found the kind of woman that I want to spend my life with. So if I end things with her and try again with another woman, what would happen? Well, the honeymoon phase, the first, let's say, year, maybe even 2 years, would be great, just like they were with my girl. Everything would be exciting and great and connected. But then afterwards, the exact same thing would happen, because I haven't learned the lessons yet. I wouldn't have learned how to build a great relationship after the honeymoon phase. If I run away from the challenges with my girl and try again with the next woman, the same exact thing would have happened, because I would have still been the same man. And if I'm the same man, how would I be able to build a great relationship with another woman when me and my girl were already fairly compatible? And thankfully, I admitted to myself that what I was doing so far was simply not working. I didn't understand why it wasn't working, because again, no one had taught me anything about relationships and love and sex and all this stuff. But then I actually also realized that in reality, the people around me had taught me a bunch of stuff, or shown me a bunch of stuff that wasn't working, because none of them had the kind of relationship that I actually wanted. They were either staying in unhappy relationships or continually searching for the one, both without ever building the one relationship. At that time, I really struggled to fall asleep and I struggled to focus on my work because the relationship was constantly in my head, constantly like all these thoughts just running around in my mind. And this was actually becoming bigger than just the relationship. It was really starting to affect my health and starting to affect my business as well, which was honestly kind of failing at the time. And I realized I had to do something here, because if I don't do something here, I will just stay in this cycle of going from failed relationship to failed relationship. I'd be with different women every couple years, and we would have a great honeymoon phase and everything would work out for the first couple years, and then things would go to shit and I would be basically just repeating the cycle and going to the next woman. I knew that things would fall apart again and again and again without me ever building this peaceful, fulfilling, passionate relationship that I actually wanted. And I know this sounds a bit dramatic, but I knew that I would eventually, if I end up in this cycle, just give up on love and relationships altogether. And maybe even give up on life altogether. Because what makes life meaningful if it's not, if you can't share it with someone that you love? Now, honestly, I don't really know why I had this belief that I could achieve this relationship. I had no idea, man. And still, there was the rescue helicopter is starting. I don't know if you can hear this, but it's a weekend day and people are in the mountains, mountain biking, whatever. So someone got hurt. Let's hope it's not too bad. But anyway, I had this conviction deep inside of me that I am made for more, that I can achieve a great relationship. And that kept me going at that time. And then one day I randomly heard this quote that changed everything for me, which was, "It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility." In that moment, I understood that my past was not my fault. The bullying I had experienced for 8 years in school that took away all my confidence, the rejections from girls, my upbringing, the fact that I was always the outsider as a kid, the fact that I was extremely skinny and kind of the small and skinny kid, right? The fact that I had these inner wounds that made me hurt my girl and treat her in unhealthy ways, even though I didn't want that. None of that was my fault. When we're young, we are like clay. The people around us and the world will shape us and condition us into something that we might not even want to be. But when we're young, we can't do something about that. We don't have any power to do something about that. And so it just happens. But even though it was not my fault that all these things happened to me, and even though it was not my fault that I was in this dark place at that time, as an adult, it absolutely became my responsibility to do something about this. And one day I started studying mythology, and I realized that in ancient tribes, they had these rituals that turned boys into men. And funnily enough, these boys had to learn the exact same lesson to enter manhood, that it's not their fault, but their responsibility. Everywhere from the Spartans in ancient Greece to the Native Americans, the Aboriginal tribes of Australia, and many more, they all had these rituals. And in the modern world, we don't have these anymore. But we can still learn the same lesson. It is not your fault that you are here, but it is your responsibility to move beyond this. This is what I did, and this is how I turned myself into what I call a high-level lover. More on this later. Because when I started transforming myself into this man, my relationship also started transforming, and quickly. There was more fun again. We were genuinely excited to spend time together. Our sex life became more passionate again, and I could see how much more she trusted me, how much more she opened to me emotionally and sexually and just in every single area. And now we've been together for almost 8 years, and that's all great. But what's even greater is the fact that our relationship continues to evolve, continues to grow, continues to get better. We give each other a level of peace and security and support that I didn't even know existed. We have this intense level of passion for each other, and we're building our life together. We're helping each other achieve our goals. And honestly, even beyond that, I completely overcame my anxious attachment, and I found a deep sense of confidence and trust, not just in her and in the relationship, but more importantly, in myself. I'm not constantly at war with myself anymore. I trust myself now, and I'm kind to myself. And man, honestly, I just found peace. And eventually I felt this strong need to share the things that I have learned with the world, with other men. So I started this very channel that you're watching right now. And nowadays I get emails or Instagram DMs almost every day from men telling me how my work, my videos have helped them transform themselves and their relationship. And what's even crazier to me is that men started reaching out to me for help. They asked me whether they could pay me so that I would train them on the things that I had learned. And so that's what I did. And these men weren't just looking for a quick fix, bullshit advice, whatever. They were looking for proper mentorship over a longer period of time. And by now, I've worked closely with men, with all these different men from 18 different countries. Like, what the fuck, dude? That is so crazy to me. And what's even crazier is that apart from their drive for growth, these men are everyday guys. They're not special. And by the way, I'm not telling you any of this to brag, but so that you actually listen to the advice I'm going to give you in the rest of this video, because these lessons will help you build a great relationship, just like they did for me and for all these different men that I've worked with. For example, there's Dan from the Netherlands who came to me because he struggled with these crippling fears in his relationship, this anxious attachment, this jealousy, and he had no idea how to overcome his own issues and love his woman in a way that would actually take the relationship to the next level. By now, Dan and his woman did not only get married because their relationship became so fulfilling, but they're also traveling together, building their house together, all this different stuff. And what's even more important here is that Dan overcame these insecurities that he was struggling with, and he is now able to lead his own life and his relationship from a place of authenticity and confidence and deep self-trust. Ah, dude, this is nice. There's a small cloud in front of the sun right now, and the sun is already getting very, very warm. It's 7:15 a.m. right now. But I got up at 5:30 to film this video for you. So anyway, let's continue. I want to also tell you about Leo, for example, right? Leo, he's a goldsmith from the UK. And when he came to me, he almost cried on the first call we had together because his relationship was in such a bad place and he didn't know what to do, and he was very, very, very afraid of losing her. Well, the sun is back, but Leo was able to completely transform himself and his relationship and turn it around. And a couple months ago, he sent me a picture of when he proposed. And of course, he said yes. And they have this very peaceful and supportive connection these days. But even beyond that, by overcoming his fears and his insecurities and becoming the man that he truly wanted to be, Leo took his jewelry business to the next level as well and actually expanded to a second store. And this is a guy in his early 20s, by the way. And my relationship also supported me in ways that helped me win in my work and succeed in business. And this isn't a fluke. Tim from the US, for example, he not only overcame his nice guy tendencies and embraced his own masculinity more and more, but also by him becoming the man he wanted to be, and by him developing this deep self-trust and learning to be actually this authentic and this grounded man, he not only got his business out of debt, but he's also on track to make $1 million this year, which is crazy to me because I haven't made that kind of money. And by the way, Tim went from failed relationship to failed relationship, and he was 28 when he came to me, and he was actually single when he came to me. Yet now he's in this deeply peaceful and fulfilling relationship with this beautiful French woman, and they're building their life together. I'm telling you this because what I'm about to tell you here, all this advice I'm going to give you here, does not only work for guys in relationships, but also for single guys. Because it's not about some tactics, but about a fundamental transformation of you as a man. And I could go on for hours about all the other men that I've worked with, like Gabriel, like Ivars, and I won't go on for hours, don't worry. But Ivars, I actually want to tell his story real quick. He's from Latvia, and when he came to me, he was also single. Yet now, not now, but a couple months ago, maybe, I don't know, 8 months ago, 9 months ago, he sent me a message saying, hey, I'm not just going to get married to the girl that I met by the end of our training, shortly before we stopped working together, but also we have a child on the way. I'm gonna be a father soon. And that just makes me so happy, man. It's incredible for me to see what all these different men have achieved. These flies are getting fucking annoying now. And honestly, like, I'm just so proud of these guys. And I'm not telling you this again to brag, but so that you can actually do this yourself, because you can get these same results for yourself. Because remember how I said earlier that I tried all these different things and none of them worked until I found the thing that actually helped me build a great relationship. Well, let me tell you what that thing is. Because just like you, most likely, I was given all these different pieces of advice that honestly just contradict each other. Some people told me, yeah, better communication, that's the way to build a great relationship, and the way to get there is couples counseling. And other people told me, oh no, like the red pill guys, right, told me, no, you have to increase your status, and the red pill tactics are the only stuff that will help you to actually keep a woman long term and keep her interested long term and keep her like sexually interested long term and all this bullshit. And then other people told me, no, you just have to get therapy. And honestly, all this did to me was it just fucking confused me. I felt stuck for a long time because all these different pieces of advice completely contradicted each other. So eventually I just made a decision. I started following the red pill advice, and while there are some good principles in red pill teachings, two bad things started happening very quickly. Number one, my girl became even more cold. She shut herself off from me even more, both emotionally and sexually. And I was so confused because I did everything these red pill guys were telling me to do to make her more attracted to me again. But instead, these flies, man. But instead, she became less attracted and she shut herself off more and just closed herself off more. And then the second bad thing that happened was honestly even worse and felt even worse, because it was that I kind of lost myself in all of this. It felt inauthentic for me to follow this advice, and I really started not liking myself. And now, years later, I know why all of this happened. Because firstly, the red pill tactics, all these teachings, they come from fear. They come from insecurity. And so a good woman will pick up on that, and she will not mess around with that. She will shut herself off. And she will stay around if she knows that you can step up and you can be better, but she will not mess with that. She will not go into that. And then also, I realized at that time that these guys, these red pill guys, they didn't even have the kind of relationship that I wanted. And I understood that, well, if I'm listening to people who don't even have what I want and don't even want what I want, then I'm not going to get there. And these red pill teachings, yes, they work. Of course they work, but they only work for one specific thing. Hooking up with insecure women, making insecure women more attracted to you so that you can hook up with them. And that's not what I wanted. And that's why this felt so wrong for me. So I moved on to trying to improve our communication, because that's what everyone told me. And I learned about all these frameworks. Together, we learned about these frameworks for healthy communication. We even hired a couples counselor to help us. And honestly, these frameworks were fucking fantastic. They made so much sense. And when we used them, we felt really connected. But most of the time, we forgot about all of this the moment we got into a fight, and we went right back to our old ways of communicating and fighting and hurting each other. And it became even more frustrating now because I knew what to do, but I wasn't able to fucking do it. And since then, I've understood why this didn't work. It's because good communication isn't the cause of a great relationship. It's not what makes a great relationship. Good communication is the result of a great relationship. Because you and her, you can learn all the communication frameworks in the world, but if you don't transform yourselves and the relationship to a more safe and a more secure place, you will still feel like enemies when you get into a fight, and that makes you go right back to your old ways of communicating. When you see conflict as a zero-sum game, meaning either she gets her way or you get your way, then you will just go right back to bad communication. Even though you might know what to do and might know what to say, you go right back to bad communication. Why? Because you feel like you need to fucking defend yourself against your partner, who is your partner, not an enemy, right? And me and my girl, when we started healing those insecurities and working through that and actually building a deeply secure relationship that we both trusted in, healthy communication just became automatic. And honestly, the couples counseling, it didn't really do much for us. It was great to talk about our issues with someone else, but honestly, it was just a bunch of talking. And after the sessions, we just went right back to what we did before. And as a side note, it was also weird to talk about this kind of stuff with an older person who didn't really understand what modern relationships are like. But still, don't get me wrong, talking is good to understand issues, to understand problems, but talking alone simply won't solve any problems. This is also the reason why over a third the rescue helicopter is back. I hope you can hear me. But anyway, this is also the reason why over a third of the men that come to me for help nowadays have been in therapy or couples therapy, yet they still come to me for help because therapy helped them understand their issues, But the issues are still there. They still don't know how to solve the issues. They still don't know what to do. As men, yes, of course, we need to understand the issues at hand, and therapy can be a great tool for that, I won't lie. But then we need action. We need a clear path forward. We need to know what to do, because talking alone doesn't help us solve our issues. And so we need training to build skills and competencies that actually help us lead our own life and lead our relationship from a place of confidence and authenticity and self-trust. And so after trying all of this and failing with it, I realized that it's all about becoming what I call a high-level lover. This is exactly what I teach to my clients, so listen up closely here. A high-level lover is a man of inner security, a man who has built the skills and the competencies to love his woman in the best way possible, not because he's afraid of losing her, but because he can see how his love opens her and makes her into a more loving woman as well. He has mastered the art of mature masculinity so he can stay calm and loving in emotional moments. He fully trusts himself and his own ability to lead the relationship to greatness. He knows how to set healthy boundaries, and he does so not because he's afraid of his woman using him, but because he has learned that he can't fill his woman's cup if his own cup is empty. And from this place of inner security and authenticity, he is able to lead the relationship to a place where both of them feel so secure, so safe, so loved that they can now fully embrace their passion for each other. She is now able to open to him fully, emotionally and sexually, and they're both able to embrace their innate differences, which more and more brings polarity and more, therefore, passion and attraction into the relationship. And by the way, if you've heard some red pill guys say that women don't want security, then yes, if we think about the kind of women that are attracted to these red pill tactics of being mysterious and unavailable, then yes, for those women, they don't want security because they are deeply insecure themselves. They are not used to security. That's why they're so insecure. To an insecure woman, safety feels uncomfortable because she's not used to it. She's not used to receiving safety from her parents, from maybe past partners, friends, whatever. And these inner wounds that she has, that's why this red pill advice works on her. That's why this advice works if your highest goal is short-term degeneracy. But for a woman, the kind of woman that you would actually want to spend your life with and build a family with, she is not up for playing these immature games. She will shut down. You need to understand that relationships are either a downward spiral or an upward spiral. In the downward spiral, you impact each other negatively because of insecurities, trauma, or simply a lack of skill. You're both more focused on protecting yourselves instead of giving love to each other. And of course, if you want to defend yourself and protect yourself, you might shut down, you might get defensive, you might people please. That is also a protection mechanism, one that I have specifically used a lot, because when we think about, oh, if I just do everything for this person, they can't leave me, right? But that's not true. Or they won't leave me, but that's not true. They will see that it's from insecurity, that you're not actually loving them and taking care of them and doing these things for them because you love them, but because you're afraid of losing them. That's a big difference. I was this people pleaser for years, and the only thing it did in our relationship was it built resentment between the two of us, because it felt like my love was never enough for her. It felt like I was sacrificing myself, and yet it was still not enough for her. And years later, I realized that, and this sounds harsh, but it really wasn't enough. And the reason that is because I was so focused on giving to her that I never filled my own cup. And so I was trying to fill her cup even though my cup was empty. So of course it wasn't enough. Anyway, when you're in this downward spiral, it feels like the relationship is draining both of your cups until you have nothing left to give and the relationship ends. But when you enter the upward spiral, it suddenly becomes easy for both of you to fill each other's cups and to give each other that love that you want from each other. You both have so much to give because your cups are overflowing, and it feels deeply satisfying to give love to the other person because they show how much they appreciate it. And now you feel safe enough to actually not have to protect yourselves anymore, to fight for yourselves anymore. You're working as a team now. And because the relationship continues to get better and easier, it continues to get easier to give to the other person. And then the relationship becomes better again, and it becomes easier for you to give love to the other person again. And on and on and on the upward spiral goes. This was a crucial lesson to learn for Ramses from Belgium, because he had struggled with insecurities and fears his entire life, especially when it comes to women and relationships. He had a bunch of failed relationships, but then he found a woman that made him want to try again. And still, he very quickly fell back into these old patterns of anxiousness and insecurity. Ramses had tried therapy, and unfortunately, it never really did anything for him. But after implementing the advice and the lessons and the practices that I gave him, he now lives together with the woman that he was so scared of losing. And their relationship is better than ever. They work together as a team now from that place of safety and security. Or look at Grant from Australia, for example. He had focused on his career a lot in his early 20s, but in the end, he stayed single from 21 to 33. And the experiences that he did have with women before he was 21 weren't great, to put it lightly. Grant came to me because he had found a great woman that he wanted to spend his life with, but he wasn't sure how to actually take this relationship with her to that next level. He really struggled with that. And his transformation was great to watch, because while he often became quiet, insecure, and anxious in the past, Grant quickly entered this upward spiral when he started building his inner security and started leading his relationship from that place of confidence. And when I recently caught up with Grant, he not only told me that the very woman he previously didn't know how to love is now his wife, but also that they have a child on the way. And dude, again, holy shit, it makes me so happy to share these stories with you. But honestly, when I first understood all these years ago who I had to become to build a great relationship, I felt fucking hopeless. I felt this deep sense of just hopelessness and despair, because I thought, well, who am I fucking kidding? Who am I fucking kidding? I am just not that kind of guy, and I can never be that kind of guy. At that time, I thought, I'm skinny as fuck. I'm socially awkward. I've always been the outsider. I don't feel comfortable in my own skin. I honestly kind of hated myself at that time. And I really fell into this dark hole, because I had seen for my entire life, I had seen all these guys who were just naturally confident, naturally good with women, guys who were liked and respected by everyone. And I was the exact opposite of that. But again, some small voice in the back of my head kept me moving forward, kept me pushing, and told me, no, you can be this, man. You are made for more. And so I kept moving. And then very quickly, I understood another life-changing lesson. I realized that no one simply is, for example, a professional athlete, but instead they build the skills, the habits, the competencies to become a professional athlete. And it's the exact same thing here. It's the exact same thing. No one simply is a high-level lover, but they can build the skills, the habits, the competencies, and everything else involved to become a high-level lover. And I was simply taught the wrong stuff, especially early on in life. We simply learn by watching other people. Monkey see, monkey do, right? Very simple. And I realized that I had simply been watching people my entire life that didn't have the relationship that I truly wanted, that weren't the kind of man that I truly wanted to be. And I realized that if I don't stop learning and stop learning from these people by watching them and by modeling them unconsciously, I will end up exactly where they are at, in this cycle of failed relationship after failed relationship, or just staying in an unhealthy and unfulfilling relationship. I realized quickly that I had simply been exposed to the wrong teachings and therefore adopted the wrong habits and built not the right skills, built no skills basically, right? And I realized that this was the reason why I was growing older, but never really growing up, never really becoming a man, still feeling like a little boy. And this is just like a guy who was raised eating shit food. Well, yes, he might be overweight, and yes, he might not be in good health, but it's not because of his genetics, but it's because he's been eating shit food his entire life. And the moment he changes his diet and changes his input, and also maybe starts exercising, he can get into great shape and into great health. It's simply his environment that shaped him into being overweight and being in bad health and all that stuff. And it's the same exact thing with becoming a high-level lover. It is not something you have or don't have. It's not a genetic thing. It's something you develop or don't develop. Either you build the skills, the competencies, the habits, or you don't. And yes, for certain guys, it is much more difficult than for other guys. And I'm a prime example of that. I had to put in way more work than most guys to get here because I was so misguided when I was younger. But if you feel like you are made for more, if you feel like there is something telling you, hey, I can be this man, then you already are that man deep down. Let me explain. Because just like my client Jose, who by the way is married now, anyway, he said this himself. You don't need to become a different man. You don't need to play this role that feels inauthentic to you or become someone that you don't want to be. Instead, really, you can imagine this like an onion. At the center of that onion is who you truly want to be. But then around this onion, there's layers, around this center, there's layers of negative conditioning, just you watching the wrong people, bad habits that you've built because of that conditioning, because of the things that are not your fault, like we said earlier on, just immature habits, insecurities, fears, all this stuff, trauma, whatever you want to call it, that is built around that. Right? And that is covering up that center. And that is making it difficult for you to access that center. So just like the overweight guy gets into better shape and better health once he starts changing his diet, you become more like this man once you tackle these outer layers and get rid of them. Maybe for you, it's the habit of people-pleasing. And you've noticed already that in reality, people-pleasing just leads to her losing respect and trust in you. Just like my client Jeff from Poland did. Even though he grew up in an Eastern culture, he was raised to be a bit of a people-pleaser. And he didn't know how to set healthy boundaries and how to actually speak his truth. But Jeff grew quickly because we didn't just talk, but I helped him get rid of these layers of negative conditioning and build better skills instead with certain exercises and practices that I gave him. And Jeff's relationship changed quickly. It grew more trusting very quickly. His woman started respecting him more, not from a place of fear, but from love. And they moved in together, and now they are happily living together. Or maybe you're scared of your trauma holding you back, like my client Josh was. Or you've just had negative experiences with relationships and women over and over again, and you think that you're just not made for love, like my client Martin from France did. Martin only came to me last year, and the thing is, I actually fucking care about the men I work with. That's why I'm so selective, by the way, with who I work with. But at the end of the day, I really do care about these guys. Like, for example, one of my clients from the US, Alex, he recently he just visited Europe recently, right? And I texted him like, dude, you have to come to Germany. Like, we're gonna go on a hike together. I live in Germany, right? We have to go on a hike together. And we went on a hike on one of these mountains you can see behind me here, and it was sick. But anyway, with Martin, I recently texted him and just caught up with him, and he told me what a wonderful year he has had with his girlfriend, who he met by the end of our training. Sick! What's really important for you to understand here is that none of these guys, including myself, by the way, changed themselves into someone they're not. And none of them changed themselves into a man that they didn't want to be, that felt inauthentic. None of them put on a mask. No, I simply helped them overcome these outer layers of negative conditioning, trauma, fear, whatever it might have been, and help them build the skills they needed to actually become the men that they wanted to be all along anyway. And that's what helped them build great relationships. Now you might think, okay, Benny, I know I can actually become this man. I feel deep down that I am actually made for more. But the thing is, even if I become this man, it wouldn't change anything because she will never change. And dude, I feel you. I struggled with this exact same thought for a while, because of course she has to do her part as well. A relationship is not a job of one person. It is both people growing together. And I was stuck in this for a long time and didn't know what to do. Maybe you've even experienced an ex, or maybe even your current woman, promising that she will change, but then she never did. And I've certainly had experiences like that, and I also fell into this trap of thinking, well, modern women are just too brainwashed by society and by social media and by all these negative influences, celebrities, whatever, to actually want a long-term, peaceful, passionate, supportive relationship. I really struggled with this for a long time because I put so much effort into my own growth, into becoming a better man, becoming a better partner. And at the start, she really didn't match that growth. She really didn't. And I'll take sex as an example to explain the bigger principle here, because especially with sex, it felt like I was doing everything myself. It felt like I was on a one-man team. It felt like she didn't do anything to actually help us improve our sex life. And she always told me, when I asked her about this, she always told me that she wants to change and wants to have better sex, but then she never did anything. But honestly, I wanted to grow into a better man anyway. And so I just continued on this path of growth, because I also knew, like I said earlier, that even if this relationship ends, but I don't become a better man in the process of it, then with the next woman, the same exact thing will happen again. And I didn't want that. So I realized, okay, either way, whatever way this goes, whatever way this relationship goes, I'll just keep growing myself, because that's the only thing I can control. And honestly, I got to this point of frustration where I realized, or I kind of promised myself, that if she doesn't start matching my growth soon, I would end this relationship, because I loved her. I wanted to be with her. We had so many similarities that would just make for a great future together. But I realized that if she doesn't match my growth here, then I will not be able to build that future with her. And that hurt deeply. And I didn't want that to happen at all. And then I had an experience that really opened my eyes in a big way. Back then, I had an office in an office building actually just behind me here. And what was that voice crack? What the fuck? Here. But what happened was, one day I meet this guy in his 30s, mid-30s in the hallway. And we start talking about business, about life, whatever else. Just casual talk, right? And something felt off. I felt deeply insecure in that conversation. And I didn't really realize why at first, because I had already worked through my social awkwardness. Like, I had built my social skills, my social confidence. I was very good at talking to people at that time already. But this guy just made me so insecure. He made me not want to talk about myself, not share anything about myself that might be vulnerable, not share anything about my business, like nothing. I just didn't want to talk to this guy. And it wasn't because he was this kind of bully that just made me feel insecure, but actually it was his own insecurity that made me so insecure. He couldn't hold eye contact. He was always looking at his fucking shoes, and he couldn't form proper sentences, and his insecurity made me feel deeply insecure. And honestly, this really stayed with me for a couple days, because I was like, what the fuck just happened? Like, why am I so insecure? Why do I feel so weird talking to this guy? And then after a couple days, I understood the link to my relationship here. Because I understood that while she often, for example, shuts down sexually, I also realized that I still had a lot of insecurities around sex. And it seemed like my insecurities were affecting her in a big way. And because in other areas of our relationship, for example, with having difficult conversations at that time, that I felt confident in that. And that was not a problem for her either, because she also felt confident in that. It was the whole upward spiral versus downward spiral thing again. And then another question popped into my head, which was, does she actually want to close herself off sexually? Does she actually want to shut down? And the clear answer was no. Because first of all, she was constantly telling me that she wants to have better sex, but secondly, nobody wants that. Everyone wants to connect deeply with their partner sexually, and wants to feel safe, and wants to feel connected, and wants to feel desired. Everyone wants that. And so I realized at that time, and this applies to other areas of your relationship as well, it wasn't that she didn't want that. It was that something was blocking her from actually being who she wanted to be and opening herself sexually to me. And like I said, this applies to every single area of your relationship where your woman shuts off or closes herself down. And then I came across this fantastic quote from one of David Data's books that really opened my eyes. He wrote, "Her openness was my openness. There was no difference." And when I read that, I realized, oh fuck, the camera is overheating again. No, that's not what I realized, but the camera is overheating again. I realized in that moment that the woman I want is already there deep inside her. She is already that person. But there are things, again, just like with me, there are things blocking her. There are layers of conditioning, whatever. There's just things blocking her from actually embracing that woman. And I realized as well in that moment, because she was telling me she wants to be that woman. And I realized in that moment that I also simply wasn't yet the man that she felt safe enough with to embrace her radiant and loving and passionate sides. I'm generalizing here, but generally speaking, women are the physically weaker sex, so they need more safety than men. And the more that I became this man, that by the way, I wanted to be anyway, the more she grew into the exact woman that I wanted by my side, that she also wanted to be. She became this open, loving, fun woman, and our sex life has continued growing since then. And right now we're having the best sex we've ever had in our entire relationship after 8 years almost, because passion doesn't fade over time. In reality, the longer you are together, as long as you learn these skills and as long as you build this relationship in this safe and secure and loving and trusting way, the more that you do that, Well, the longer you are together, the more you can do it, of course, because there's more practice time in that sense. But the more you do that, the more you will be able to embrace your differences, embrace that polarity, and with that, bring more attraction into your relationship again. The very attraction that you had at the start, but lost because you became so similar, because you were afraid of your differences, because differences can also lead to fights. And this whole myth of passion fading over time, this is what people told you who don't even have the relationship that you truly want. People who are not where you want to be. People who are still afraid of embracing their differences because they still don't feel safe enough with their partner or with themselves. And those are the people who put this myth of passion is fading over time, or passion will fade over time, into your head. Why would you listen to those people? Stuart, for example, had the same experience. He had been married for 10 years to his wife already when he came to me, because the passion in their relationship just had faded more and more, and he wasn't sure whether he should just accept that or do something about it. But Stuart very quickly realized through experience that when he's acting from security and love instead of fear and shame, there was suddenly a lot more space for their desire for each other to thrive, because that desire had never left. And I think the pictures and the messages that he recently sent me tell much more of a story about where his wife and him are at these days than I could ever tell you. Alright, brother, the camera is overheating again, which is fucking annoying because I have to restart the camera every 2 minutes and then wait for it to cool down and all this stuff. I'm also getting fucking cooked in the sun right now because it is still early in the morning, but it's probably 28, 29 degrees Celsius already. So I'm gonna just go home now and continue filming this video tomorrow, because this is not good. I'll see you tomorrow. All right, brother, it's the next day. We're back, and yeah, I'm just gonna continue this video where I left off yesterday, because there are still quite a lot of points that I want to cover. And I knew this would be an ambitious video, but I didn't realize how long this video would actually be. And yeah, we're just going to kick things off again. So I'm going to kick things off here with the fact that I'm not saying that you should change her or that it's your job to change her, because you know how difficult it is to change yourself. So good luck with trying to change her, but you do influence her in every single moment. Simple example, if you shout at her, chances are she will either shout back or shut down, instead of being the loving, caring, radiant woman that you actually want by your side. But if you go and you build an environment where she feels safe enough, not just physically, but first and foremost emotionally, that enables her to actually step deeper into her feminine. And it doesn't mean that she will immediately do it, but she can. And yes, a small percentage of women will never do it because their trauma or whatever else is blocking them from actually going deeper there and kind of making herself vulnerable in that way is just too big and too scary, and that's okay. But most likely, that is not the woman that you're with right now. And at the end of the day, either way, even if that is the woman that you're with right now, you shouldn't sit. The cow is taking a dump next to me. There's cows behind me in case you didn't know. I'm on a field. I mean, yeah, anyway. Just taking a dump 5 meters away from me. Anyway, yeah, what I was saying is you shouldn't hold back your love out of fear of giving it to the wrong woman, because that will not only destroy the right woman and your relationship with her, but also you will lose yourself in that, because that's not you. And again, with 95% of all the men that I've ever worked with, their women started developing exactly into the woman that these men wanted by their side anyway, when they gave them this emotionally safe environment. Because there's usually a strong reason for why you felt attracted to each other in the first place. And this is also why my fear of her leaving me, because I developed myself into this safe man, was completely irrational. Because sure, a woman who is addicted to drama, addicted to playing games, always playing hard to get, and doesn't want to change that, that woman would leave. But as harsh as that sounds, that's good, because I don't want to spend my life with a person like that by my side. And even though I've worked with so many different men, I've rarely ever seen this happen, because the moment you start acting more like a mature man, you make more room for her to act like a mature woman. The flies, dude. The flies are already driving me fucking crazy. It's 6:30 a.m. and the flies are already here. I fucking hate this. Fuckers. But anyway, if you're thinking, Benny, I get that, but why do I have to change when she is the problem? Let me explain this for you. Firstly, she is not the problem, just like you are not the problem. You both have problems, and you can either support each other in working through those or make them even worse. And if you're wondering, oh, but Benny, why do I have to take the first step here? Well, then let me ask you this. Do you want to be a leader or do you want to be a follower? And I know being a leader can be fucking exhausting sometimes. But look, at the end of the day, you see a problem in your relationship or many problems. She might not even be aware of those problems yet, or not to the extent that you are aware of them. So brother, if you see a problem, do something about it. Take your fucking life into your own hands instead of being passive and waiting for her to also finally understand and see the problem and then doing something about it. No, take your life into your own hands, do something about the problem, be proactive. For example, Alex from Germany, he did this. He came to me because he saw the passion in his relationship go down, and instead of waiting for his woman to also notice that problem, he was simply proactive about it and solved the fucking problem. And look, I know you might be scared of being used by your woman or by women in general if you do this. And honestly, yes, some women, they will use you if you step into this kind of man. But I've only seen this happen once or twice with the men I've worked with. And the crazy part is this: once you become the man who you truly want to be, you see that and you don't fuck with that anymore. And you can maturely and without any drama just step out of that relationship, because you see what's happening now and you're not addicted to her approval anymore. Once you become that man, you can see clearly and you can, if you want to, move on from that relationship with certainty. This is what my client JD, for example, did. The more he became the man that he truly wanted to be, the more he realized that his 4-year relationship, 4 years, just wasn't serving him, and he moved on from that relationship with certainty. You need to understand this. JD was able to move on from this and actually not lose himself anymore. These flies, dude. There's a cow right next to me. That's why there's all these flies, by the way. Anyway, JD, he was able to not lose himself in this relationship anymore because he stepped into the man that he truly wanted to be. And once he got out of the relationship, it became easy for him to actually build a great relationship with a great woman because he was already the man that he wanted to be. But again, with almost all of the men I've worked with, it didn't even get to this point because there is usually a strong reason or multiple strong reasons for why two people felt attracted to each other in the first place. And the right woman will want to be the best woman she can be for you. I know this might sound crazy because at the end of the day, not because it's not true, but because you were taught that a woman's love and warmth and passion are things you must extract from her or earn from her. But that's not true, brother. She wants to love you deeply, and she probably just feels like she can't really do that right now because she doesn't feel safe enough emotionally to make herself vulnerable in that way. Difficult word for me to say. At the end of the day, man, being cold, being distant is simply a protection mechanism. That's it. So yes, being cold, being distant, that protects people, but it also hurts those very people that protect themselves because no one wants to be like that. She wants to be open, she wants to be happy, she wants to be loving, she wants to be radiant, but she can only go there if she feels safe enough with you and with your relationship together to go there. This is what Deacon from Canada experienced, for example. He came to me after his previous relationship had ended, for good reason, honestly, looking back now. But anyway, Deacon, the work that we did together, it helped him very quickly, as he says, find his own peace. He became more confident. He developed masculine self-love. He built this deep sense of self-trust. And as you would expect, Deacon was quickly able to find a great woman. See, the cow agrees. Anyway, he found a great woman very quickly that he's now building his life with. And they're both super fucking happy together. Deacon became a great man, and he's now able to give his woman the emotional safety that she needs to be who she truly wants to be, to embrace who she truly wants to be. Even though, and I need to say this because so many men will comment, but you can't do this if you're traumatized or if your woman is traumatized. No, Deacon and his woman haven't had, none of them have had an easy past, to put it lightly. I'm not going to go too deep into that because that's private information, but holy shit, man, they've healed some deep fucking wounds. And this is simply because of David Hawkins, fucking genius, not Stephen Hawking, not the physicist, David Hawkins, who he's passed away now, unfortunately, but he researched consciousness, and he wrote in one of his many masterpieces called Letting Go, he wrote, "Fear of the future no longer exists once the past has been healed." Fear of the future no longer exists once the past has been healed. That's it. This is the work that Deacon did. And this got him to this place of inner security that now enables him to lead his woman to that exact same place. Because as David Data, the David I mentioned earlier, right? Not David Hawkins, the other David. I mentioned this earlier, this quote. He said, "Your openness is her openness." Your authentic confidence, your inner security is what enables her to step into the exact woman that she truly wants to be and to open herself up to you emotionally and sexually. And by the way, if a woman sticks around, even though the relationship isn't fulfilling and isn't good, that simply means that she is waiting for you to step the fuck up and become this man, because she knows deep down that you can be this man. Otherwise, she wouldn't stick around. So the question now becomes, how do you actually achieve the exact relationship you truly want, like all the men I've mentioned in this video? Well, at this point, you really have two options. Option number one is you take all the information I've given you in this video and you try to figure it out yourself. And that's definitely a viable option. So if you feel like it's best suited for you, please go ahead. Just know that your progress won't be fast. That's just what it is. You have to be okay with that. You will lose some valuable months or maybe even years where you could already have the relationship you want with the woman you want. And also, if you're in a relationship right now, please understand that the risk of that relationship ending goes way up, because things will only change slowly, will only improve slowly, if at all. Because also, the chance of you just getting frustrated because you're not making any real progress and quitting is quite high as well. And I'm speaking from experience here, because I did this myself, not because I wanted to, but because I had no choice. The second option didn't even exist back when I had to start this journey. But once I had this fulfilling, peaceful, passionate relationship, I wanted more men to experience this. I wanted more men to get here. Even right now, just from regularly catching up with all the men that I've already worked with, it is so fucking awesome to see what building this relationship has done for them personally, but also for their woman and their children, and what it will do for their future children. And this is pretty much why I started this channel. This is why I work so hard to get these videos out for you guys. This is why I get up at fucking 5:30 to film these videos for you guys. And this is also why I started my high-level lovers mentorship for men who are tired of being in a relationship they know can be better, but just not being able to make it better, or men who are just going from failed relationship to failed relationship, always continually falling on their face and getting fucking frustrated. And that is your second option. So let me break this down for you. Every single success story that you've seen in this video is from my high-level lovers mentorship. And as you can see, there is a lot of men who want to work with me, but there is only one of me. So naturally, there is a limit on how many men I can work with at any given time. So I only run this on an application basis. And by the way, as a man, I was being told my entire life that I should not ask for help, that I'm not a real man if I don't figure shit out by myself. And just to be honest here, if I hadn't gotten rid of this destructive mentality, you wouldn't even be watching this very video right now. Because just to be honest, I tried YouTube in the past and I failed miserably. I didn't know how to build a great YouTube channel that actually helps people. And then I asked myself a very simple question. How would I ever achieve something that I've never done before without asking someone who has done it for advice? And the clear answer was, I can't. I can't achieve something that I've never done before without asking someone who has done it for advice. And that's when I got a mentor for YouTube. And that's when the channel took off. And now we're here. And look, dude, what's crazy to me is this. For all of human existence, men had other men as mentors who taught them about hunting, relationships, building tools, raising children. And nowadays, in this modern day and age where so many men already grow up without fathers, we're being brainwashed into believing that we aren't real men if we don't figure it out by ourselves, that asking for help makes you not a real man. That is just crazy to me. I get so passionate about this stuff because it really upsets me seeing so many men just fall off because they take this bad advice and never seek the counsel of other men. And anyway, I've put a link in the description of this video for you. That link will take you to that application I was mentioning earlier. And that application, filling that out, takes literally 2 minutes. And if your application looks good, looks like you're qualified to work with me, then you will be able to schedule a free 1-hour discovery call with me personally. I'll explain exactly what we'll do on this call in a second, but first, I need you to understand that this is not some 1-hour free call where you can just pick my brain and get some bullshit quick fix advice, because that's not what I do. I help men make a fucking transformation. So I do these calls because firstly, I will work with you personally, meaning I need to make sure that you and me, we actually get along well. And number two, there is only one of me. So I need to be picky with who I actually work with. And I want to get to know you more and your situation more than just a written application to decide whether I want to help you or not. So on this call, we will diagnose your current situation and figure out exactly what is actually holding you back from achieving the relationship that you truly want. This also helps me decide whether my model works for you or not. For most guys it will, for some it won't, and I'll be totally honest about that on the call. But if it works for you, I'll explain exactly how I can help you and will map out specifically what working with me would look like for you. And I'll also answer any questions that you might have about how I'll be able to help you. And if it's a good fit for both of us, we'll get started. And if it's not a good fit for you, no hard feelings. I will still point you in the right direction. So either way, you leave this call with more clarity than you have right now. So if anything in this video resonated with you, if you know that it's time for you to finally step the fuck up and actually achieve the relationship that you've always wanted, and if you don't want to waste years trying by yourself and falling on your face and potentially risking your relationship in the process, then take 2 minutes right now and fill out the application with the link in the description. And one last thing, I don't mean to be a dick here, but I want to be honest. The world will keep spinning whether you take this opportunity and actually achieve the relationship you want or not. The world doesn't care. It's your choice and only your choice. But if you want to take this opportunity, then I'm happy and excited to speak to you on that discovery call sometime over the next couple days. So click that link right now, fill out the application, and I'll speak to you very soon. Have a great day.